Okay, so the recording's on, and yep. So this is the podcast number. Well, actually, what is the number episode we're at? But while I find that out, our current subject matter is going to be about you have an unpopular opinion of some media of some sort, and then worst media that you've ever enjoyed. So it could be games, it could be movies, it could be any of those things. And this Goob show, yeah, the episode.
We have Carlos, D'Angelo, Sean, and myself, Apollo. Podcast for today.
Yep.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
And is episode 12. We're on 12, so this should be the 12th episode.
Okay.
Yay.
Yeah. Episode 12. The Revenge of the Popular.
Revenge of the Popular. Yeah, okay.
Since, we're all volunteering to, well, we're kind of not exactly volunteering to share unpopular opinions. Because the masses will come after us.
Of course, they're gonna cancel us. It's cancel culture, man.
Cancel the Goob Squad.
Cancel before it even gets started.
Good. Record time.
Okay.
Who's going?
I'm gonna go first, I guess. Why not?
Sure.
There's so
jump
many
in.
things that have an unpopular opinion about in any medium too. So you never know. It's going to hold something that's a sacred cow, and then next minute you know you get letter bombs and dog food at the door.
I mean, we got like one
We're all
viewer,
taking
so
that
it's not a
risk,
big
man.
deal.
Well, it's gonna be easy to find out who is coming from that one viewer.
Yeah.
How are we gonna know? I've never seen anybody's poo. No, well, actually, no, never mind. I've never seen somebody's specific poo. I've definitely seen a lot of poo since I worked downtown. Just a carpet of it.
Delicious.
Why is the floor so squishy? Oh, that's right. It's just the hobo's just carpet bombing the place.
In you.
Yeah, pretty much. So you just hear that song of the Rise of the Valkyries, like da 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 da. Okay, one of my unpopular gaming opinions. I honestly never care about the Call of Duty franchise at all.
Sure.
I know
Understandable.
that. Yeah, I know that they forged the path ahead for a lot of the first-person shooting, especially in the console, and they really revolutionized the industry with their Modern Warfare take. What is it? The 7th generation, the 6th generation, the PlayStation 3 generation.
Yeah, Modern Warfare. Yeah.
Modern Warfare, yeah. And from all those points, it's fantastic. But I never care for for example, their campaigns. Like, I always find them kind of boring.
Even Modern Warfare.
I only played that in co-op with my little brother.
Oh,
So-
so you didn't actually play the campaign.
I never really, played the campaign.
Hmm.
Probably gonna go back to playing that again. Since it's on. Since I think I have it because I think I have it for free on the PS4. But
Yeah, that campaign in particular actually holds up really, really well. I played it not too long ago, and it's still excellent.
that's good. Go ahead and give it a shot. But yeah, also the multiplayer, it was the kind of thing that I would play for a while, but it didn't have enough variety for me to be like, oh, okay, for me to just move on, just a couple of hours and never pick it up ever.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I just went in the waves, just taking the piss out of Call of Duty at all times. I think it was just more of a culture shock at the time when first-person shooters were picking up, not like as a genre, but more like in comparison to other genres. So me,
Yeah.
I was just more into character-based stuff, so I just was not really feeling like the whole idea of video games being like run and gunners for the most part. And this is someone who grew up with Doom. Doom could be cartoony though, so it had a element of escapism and fantasy, where it's like Call of Duty to me at the time was just like saying, "Hey, we should have video games as approximations of reality." Nowadays, I kind of have a bit of a vengeance towards Call of Duty, where it's like I come to expect titles every generation, because for the most part, the games were graphically impressive at the time on PS3 and Xbox 360, and they at least pushed people to buy HD TVs. And then nowadays, you have today's tech, you have like graphics just being pushed on those games for better or worse, and it's just like, hey, it's kind of a benchmark title.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be really into Call of Duty during I think Modern Warfare, the first Modern Warfare was like my first online FPS that I ever played. And I played that a bit, but then I got into like World at War and Modern Warfare 2 and like some of the Black Ops series, the first two, and I was into them for many years actually, like the multiplayer and the campaign stuff. I really enjoyed, but yeah, I mean, after a while, it really... Not only does it's just the same thing again and again, it really is just like every single year the same fucking thing, but like, I'm definitely more of a lapsed Call of Duty fan at this point because, you know, I mean, there's just so much hype around it every year, and it's just the same fucking thing. Like, there's so much hype that they built this year and the whole Warzone thing with all the Easter eggs, and they were building up for weeks and weeks and weeks, and people were doing all these codes and all this crazy shit, and like, just to get to another video or get to another timer or another teaser, and then they finally came out with the trailer, and it was just like, oh, it's Black Ops 5, the thing that everybody wanted, but it's like the same characters from Black Ops 1 and 2, and it's in the Cold War again, which for some reason people are treating as a new thing for Call of Duty, but they've already done it in like at least one game that I can remember. So it's just like, yeah, it really is. Yeah, I definitely kind of don't give a shit about it anymore. It's just kind of hard to, like, I think Sean and I have played some of the multiplayer for Warzone, like the actual, like, proper multiplayer, which was for last year's Modern Warfare, which the campaign for that was actually really good. But like one of the best campaigns they've come out with, and one of the first time in years I've actually really been into a Call of Duty campaign. But yeah, I mean, even like the multiplayer is still fun enough, but it really is more of a just, well, there's nothing else to play. Like, I guess we could play this for a couple hours. It's not like really my first choice. So I can definitely understand that.
Yeah. I mean, I respect anybody who, like, you know, plays a different game than I do. I think that it just never appealed to me because it was mostly, I always felt like, you know, Call of Duty franchise was mostly focused on that competitive aspect, and I've never been a competitive person myself. So
Yeah.
It just never really appealed to me at the time.
But they give us that meme about that, you know.
Yeah.
Respects.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, really funny.
Continue amongst yourself. I think I have to take a call.
No, I think this
Okay.
is good.
Not a problem.
So,
That actually is pretty funny too. That they're making fun of, like, seriously, like, this is game design here. This is the extent of your interaction. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's a good meme though. Good meme.
yeah, I'm thinking of a lot of things that I could probably take a stand on. I mean, well, what am I saying? Taking a stand on? It's just unpopular opinions. It's not like political influence here. What are we talking about? Yeah. Hey, Carlos, I'm probably gonna say something about video games. So I'm sure there's some stuff about cartoons and TV that I could probably say too. It's just lot of the stuff on TVs and it's just kind of technical. It's like not really specific to one series, so it's hard to say.
Sure.
I mean, if we're talking about unpopular opinions, I'm just going to say it. I really didn't care that much about Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. That's kind of a safe opinion, relatively, in the last episodes, but people held them as like, oh, they're the great Mario platformers. In true, Mario 64 did start some stuff I will never forget. The summer of my childhood, where I wrestled an N64 controller at a game store out of someone's hand so I could play some sweet Mario 64. Trying to triple jump to my front door when I was going home that day. That's how excited I was to play Mario 64. But that was like, at a glance, after I owned Mario 64 playthrough, it's like, alright. I mean, 120 stars later, I really don't feel the kind of love I did for a lot of other Mario games. And that's
interesting.
Not me being burnt out with Mario as a kid. That's me not really feeling the Mario atmosphere that's shown in other games. I enjoyed the hell out of Galaxy. I enjoyed the hell out of 3D World. And yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of Odyssey. Even though that is also the fruit strike gun with Mario games, where it loses its flavor the moment you beat it. But at least hunting all the moons is okay. It's a fair time waster. It's just not as great as when it's just more story driven. So it's like once that story's over, it's like you don't care as much. But it's still not leaving a bad taste in my mouth with Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, where it's like Mario Sunshine's problem is that they tried to be too different and okay, collecting shines is the same as collecting stars, but it's Mario with a singular motif. Alright? It's like, I always compared it as, what if Mario Brothers 3 ended after Grassland? That would be a short Mario game. That is exactly what Mario's Sunshine is. Mario in one particular themed world, and it is only that themed world until the end.
That's interesting. I actually never... I always wanted to play Sunshine, and I had a GameCube, and I loved it. I just never got around to it. So I actually didn't know that it's only that one, environment.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not that that's bad for some players. You have a fair amount of objectives, but most of them are just like Grassland, Village, which is also Grassland, Amusement Park, Volcano, Festival, but they're all in the same area. And the whole idea of Mario's on vacation, so that's the narrative justifying the setting. It's just that once you get to that setting, it's like, that's kind of bad for Mario, because you see all sorts of themes. And yeah, there are some fans that say, what about those areas that you do the pure platforming, where they take FLUDD away, and then you can replay them with FLUDD again? It's like, here's the problem. Nintendo didn't exactly figure out the right kind of momentum for Mario games in 3D until way later. And that's around Galaxy, where they finally balanced out the gravity of Mario's jump and everything else. It's like, it's not too floaty, but it's just enough so it's like, hey, you can pinpoint where you want Mario to land because they tried to be diligent without a shadow. So watching Mario Shadow is how you watch your jumps and platforms, which works for 3D. But you don't really get that kind of sensation from the previous games, because I don't remember if Mario does have a cast shadow in his 3D games, but I don't remember it being prominent in 64. I might be mistaken about the little drop shadow, but it's in Sunshine. You kind of rely a lot on FLUDD to just make your landings, because the jumping is still the jump physics are still pretty slippery on it. Again, if I'm not saying it's a bad game, like, play it if you want, play it if you ever get the chance. I'm just saying it just hasn't aged as well as many people want to believe.
I see.
What would you say is your favorite Mario game?
I'm gonna have to say Galaxy 1. Like I
That-
love
yeah.
a lot about Galaxy 2. I love the 3D land and world games. Actually, I like 3D World a lot better. Um, but Galaxy still captures the perfect idea of how to do a 3D Mario game. It's like the star missions and everything because it has the right kind of flow that eases you into the gameplay. It has this really forgiving learning curve where, yeah, the challenge ramps up a little bit, but the challenge ramps up in terms of platforming and just watching cues. The game gives you enough clues to say, hey, this is how these little sandbox worlds work, but we are going to give you a mercy period just to like ramp up to it. Yeah, you will lose a lot of lives in Mario Galaxy, but it's a good feeling. It's like you don't really feel like the game's holding your hand too much, but you still have a lot of like it still feels approachable even if you're not an expert at platform games or an expert at Mario games. And that I can't really say enough how much of a fine experience Mario Galaxy is in on itself. Even if you just ignore everything that came before and after it, it still feels good.
Yeah, I never played the second one, but I remember you let me borrow your Wii to play the first one, and man, I got through that game like really fast. I burned through it because it really is like I really do love Mario 64, and for me, like I hadn't played a Mario game, and like again, I didn't play Sunshine, so I hadn't played a Mario game in a fucking a while at that point. So I played Galaxy, and it felt to me like the first time I played Mario 64, where it was just like this all these fantastical worlds, and it just felt like it was such a like one of a kind experience. Definitely. I don't know if that's my favorite Mario game, but that's definitely one of my favorites too. Really great game.
Were you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you guys talking about Super Mario Sunshine?
Yeah, a little bit. Basically, I was saying how I really, my unpopular opinion was that I really think that
Sorry.
those were as great as everybody remembers, and it's more of my feelings on how a Mario game should feel like. And one thing I didn't dive into that Galaxy did really well was introduce the standard Mario power-ups into a 3D environment.
Yeah.
And tried to show how they work with Mario 64's rules, where they're running on the timer instead of hitting use power up.
Right.
For the most part, I will respect that about Mario 64, where it tried to use power ups in a way to present puzzles that can only be solved by that power up. And I do think that trying to bring that dynamic in to a Mario 3D platformer was still at least respectable. Even if I don't really fully like Mario 64 that much in hindsight, I still respect a lot of his choices.
All right.
Cool.
I was just gonna add that. Did you say that Super Mario Sunshine is? It's funny because I usually think that Super Mario Sunshine is the one game that most people don't like about that from that 3D.
It's been a mixed jury on that because some people have been coming out of the woodwork saying this game is better than you remember.
Yeah.
And really, if my unpopular opinion is just enforcing the status quo, I'll accept that. Because I don't think it was that great, or I don't think it made a lot of great choices. One thing I didn't get into was blue coins. I'm not going to get too much into blue coins. Basically, what I can say is that you have to save every time that you picked up a blue coin, and a lot of them were in areas that were only accessible in specific missions. It wasn't something you could collect very easily. So that's all I'm saying about blue coins. That is a point of frustration that some fans will bring up.
Hashtag free the blue coin.
Blue coins!
But yeah, I definitely have to agree that Sunshine. Well, I remember having a good time with it. In hindsight, I can see that a lot of it, like the choices they made for the world, were just would just be seen as just really tiring. Like, for example, the fact that all of the maps just reiterate the same like beach theme. Like it all felt like all the worlds just kind of blended into each other. And I think the best parts of that game were actually the best parts of what were integrated into Super Mario Galaxy, where you had like this one-off stages that were just platforms in midair and they were all like really good puzzles on their own. And they just kind of took that concept from Mario Galaxy and they were like, hey, what if the entire what if we had platforms all over in the middle of the space, but there was gravity?
And they ran with they ran with that up to what you call it, Odyssey, I think, because they had those little play areas where for nothing but grabbing the moons, and you had to fight at least two of them. But they were pure platform athletic stages.
If anything, I think that I had fun with Mario Odyssey, but I have to say that I was a little disappointed with that game.
That's fair.
I was expecting bigger worlds. I was expecting something just more meaty and stuff. And what I got was fun, but I never really felt like I was tested to the best of my ability.
As someone who loves the game, I actually enjoy hearing all about it.
Same. I love the game, but I love hearing what people didn't quite to the taste, like the shortcomings of the game.
Well, in a sense, it helps me kind of validate where I can actually see flaws and stuff like that too. So sometimes I find myself identifying with what they identify as a flaw too. So I don't know. Maybe it's just like the strange sense of camaraderie where it's like, go on. I like talking about that part I didn't like too. But, no sacred cows in this household.
I think mine's would probably be it's kind of hard to pinpoint because there's quite a bit of different ones out there. So it's kind of hard to like pinpoint exactly the one that I wanted to talk about because there's like a couple things that like one was like I didn't like the like I didn't like the experiences from some of the Netflix shows that some people enjoyed. They weren't so great to me. Like I think there was the paper house one, or rather the heist or one, whatever.
Yeah, the heist.
Yeah. It was like the first season, like it had interesting character moments, and that was cool. But aside from that, I didn't think of it was like as amazing as a lot of people kind of made it out to be, and it got a resurgence because of the popularity since Netflix picked it up and started rolling with it. It's nice to see a series kind of like do that though, to see that it came from a different like a different country, and then like it just, and then when they aired it on Netflix and stuff, like that's when they picked it up, and then they decided to keep on going with more seasons and stuff like that. So that was interesting that they were able to do that, and a lot of people like enjoyed it outside of Spain that it came from.
I mean, it was a soap.
Yeah.
A soap wrapped in a heist movie show.
Yeah.
like it never really felt like a very grounded TV show. Like there were a lot of like times in which you just had to like suspend your disbelief that that people like would actually act that way, or the military.
Oh, right. Or like it's more like the I'm not. I think it's just personally I don't like the carrot on a stick kind of way of playing of watching things. Like if it's like if you're gonna do like, oh, the big surprise is, and then immediately throw it out the window the next few times is kind of annoying, because then it's like there's no build up, right? Like everything building up to that point for the big reveal is like pointless, because there's no there was no point for you to even know that of the quote unquote reveals or something. So yeah, there's that show. What was on another thing was like
Like the Rise of the Skywalker.
right, totally. That would be hilarious if that was the case. That's my unpopular.
Magic of them plotting the Pathfinder, just knowing that the ship is going to gather by the waves and stay there for a long time. Plan that well. Says so has due to in their soul.
It's destiny. It had to do with the Force.
I have to do it in myself. Does that not be the
It was. And then I think, what was it? Maybe I would say some of the Marvel movies gets more credit than it's necessarily needed. That like I enjoyed like stuff like Winter Soldier and like Civil War and stuff like that, but I still understand to the extent of like, it's only as good as it was built up to it. So if you didn't have anything that was associated beforehand, then it wouldn't be as fantastic as it was built up to say like this is the best one. So yeah, like I understand that like the amount of fan service and like how well of a payoff it was at the Infinity War, and like we actually have like a series of films that actually have characters built off of each other. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, I mean, to say that if you were to just pick them out individually, there's gonna be some things that wouldn't be as enjoyable for like somebody that's a completely newcomer. For instance, example of that is where I do like Civil War a lot, but I also didn't like that they had like Spider-Man just kind of just randomly gets placed in there. There was
it was obvious that he was shoehorned in at the last minute.
Yeah. So like those are the kind of things. It's just like where it's just like, man, do you need to do that? Like I understand that like they the opportunity was there, and they've always been wanting to get Spider-Man into the MCU. But for me, it kind of took away a lot from like the what could have been more about the difference between Stark and Captain America, and then have more emphasis on T'Challa being in there. Like, where does he fall in terms of like his how would he agree with either side? Does he keep going the revenge route, or like how much more can we we could have had time for that stuff, and it was certainly fun, but at the same time it was I can understand like other people that are just coming into it and they're like, whoa, what is going on, and then they have to kind of invest time,
The whole universe part of it, though. Like you're just coming into it, like that's. I would expect you to like expect that you're not gonna know what's going on.
Yeah, well,
There's no way that you can literally have like however many movies they have and like be newcomer friendly with all of them. Like there's just no way.
Yeah.
The further you get in, the worse that's gonna get.
Yeah.
The nature the cinematic universe.
Which is why I think it's also a bad thing, because now we're getting into a point where now you're serializing movies to a point where now you have no room for those people coming in, and it becomes more and more unfriendly as time goes. That's my unpopular opinion. I don't think I see that there is a bad thing that can happen with, as good as it has been, and I really enjoy it, and I watched them all, fully invested. But it's bad when you get to a point where now it's gated by those people, right? That are either you don't know about it or you do know about it, and then when you're just coming in, you're just like, whoa, this is overwhelming, and I gotta now watch all these other ones just to keep up. And how much of that do they need to actually watch? Because some of that shit that they put in there is I didn't actually need to watch that movie. You kidding me? So eventually there's gonna be a point where it's not gonna go well.
Yeah, I mean, it does suffer of the same problem. On the one hand, they kind of bank on the idea that hey, you can just go and watch all these movies. They're all easily available, everywhere you go. But on the other hand, it does suffer the same problem as comics, right? That they can be intimidating to get into because you don't know where to begin.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why they always reboot it.
Way more complicated. With this, it's literally just you can Google it and see. Okay, you can literally look up the order. You could say that about any long-running series. You could say that about Star Wars. If I come into the last one, I won't know what's going on. Well, yeah, I mean, you didn't see the ones before it.
I'm glad you mentioned Star Wars because I was just thinking of the other example where that's a problem. That would be Clone Wars. You know how that was originally aired out of chronological sequence in this what was it, Cartoon Network, and then when it was translated to Netflix.
TV series?
I was talking about the
miniseries. Oh, the CG series. Okay.
Yeah, Clone Wars. Yeah.
Well, there's two Clone Wars. The animated one. Yeah, there's the animated one, 2D animated, and then there's the 3D animated.
Yeah, I'm talking about the 3D animated.
Yeah.
Trying to go watch that on Netflix. They also didn't bother to put in those chronological sequences.
Oh, that's great.
It's so stupid.
Oh, lovely.
I don't understand whose great idea was it to be like, hey, let's take this one story and just garble everything together and just
that sucks. I didn't know that.
That's weird. On Netflix? What do you mean? It's the episodes are...
The episodes are not in chronological sequence. They're all in the sequence that it was, that they were aired.
Huh. That's wild. I actually didn't notice that.
The first episode is it's somewhere around the middle of the story. It's why I didn't continue watching it. I could have just, gone on this and stuff. It's too much work.
Right. So anyways, yeah, so that's the one thing that I would say that's probably the unpopular opinion that I would have to go with. Cuz to be all like, "Oh, you just didn't know? Boo-hoo, you didn't do your research." I'm all like, "Okay, it's calm down." Some of these Yeah. Or what about is the fucking end credits is it's Adam Warlock. Nobody fucking knows who Adam Warlock is. Why did you even fucking put it in there?
Yeah.
Right? So it's just that's what I'm saying. Just there's these small things that you gotta be careful. People that are not gonna know these things. And to be the only, and then sometimes to be the only person in the room to know, and everybody just looks at you to explain it to them. I'm like, oh man, what am I, a fucking encyclopedia? There's comes to a certain point where you don't need to over explain, sure, but at the same time it's just there is gonna be that sense of you're being thrown in, you don't know what's going on. It's just all this shit happening and just what the fuck. It's so I'm concerned that it could potentially do that, and I'm only just going in the eyes of the person that they just they haven't been watching him. and they may enjoy it, but not to the same degree, of course. So yeah, I think we're at an impasse where like.
What do you mean? Like, well, what's the limit? Like, are you saying we've already got? Because it sounds like you're saying like we've already gotten there.
We're I would say we're getting close to it. I don't think we've gotten there yet to the point where it's just completely just like I have no idea what's going on. But there was definitely some movies that had that same effect. Like I think Civil War was the best one, even though like I enjoyed that the most.
Right.
And was like, and they just did a good job with like Infinity War, where you didn't feel overwhelmed, or at least now I haven't met anybody that felt too overwhelmed with like who's that and and they're just getting like totally thrown off, like they should have known these things that had happened previously.
Okay, but you have met people who
Yeah,
were overwhelmed by Civil War.
they felt overwhelmed by like, wait, what? Spider-Man's here? What the fuck's going on here? And it's like, did they ever met Black Panther before? Like he showed up?
Though, because there's so many more characters in Infinity War than there is.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like they didn't feel overwhelmed that they were part of the story. That they were just kind of they were there, but you were so invested with Thanos, and you're so invested with the leader groups of each one, because he knew like who Iron Man was, who Captain America was, but anything between like Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, and then like Black Panther, like significant amount of that stuff he didn't watch. Ant-Man, he didn't watch. Yeah, so it's like I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like it wasn't nearly as enjoyable for him because like I'm getting all the enjoyment of like having all these characters here. And then he just like did not know that they even existed. Like Ant-Man appearing, and then having that just really quick garble of him talking about where dimension he was. He's like, the fuck? Yeah, he's just like he has to watch 2 movies to understand the very instance of him just appearing out of the fucking van. So it was like, oh, okay. I mean, I could get that. I could get why, like, that was just like, what? Like, what happened? It took him out of the moment, but he definitely enjoyed it for the fact of, like, Infinity War and the fact that it's, like, these major factions are all trying to, like, work towards defeating Thanos. He enjoyed Thanos especially because you really got to learn about Thanos from the beginning of, like, the 2 movies. Well, I mean, again, that's what I'm saying.
I get where the guy's coming from, I guess, but like, I don't know, like, why? I don't know. I wouldn't go into Lethal Weapon 3 and be like, I don't know who these characters are, and it's like, I mean,
well,
and on the third one,
well,
like,
he wouldn't say that for the third one. What is this? Avengers Infinity War? How many movies is that in? That's like a decade's worth of movies. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Sure.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't understand how he's less overwhelmed by Infinity War than...
No, he was overwhelmed. But he was overwhelmed in the sense of those things. But he enjoyed it more only because the villain was the main character. And he understood all that aspect. He already saw, like, Captain America and, like, caught up into Civil War or something like that, and then like understood some of the aspects of what was going on with some of the characters. But he like the fact that we spent time with, like, say, Spider-Man, and we spent time with like these like eluded stories with Vision and was it Scarlet Witch. So it's like there's these small things. It's like he felt like he was missing more of a piece than there actually were. But when he watched the other previous one, and then he was like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. So it's like, it's one of those things where it felt like the story pacing got thrown off more so than it did in Infinity War, whereas those characters were really just background, practically. Like, for instance, Captain Marvel, like, you didn't really need to watch the movie to know that, like, her movie to really get what's going on. Like, you just knew that she was really powerful. Maybe, sure. But even then, like, even if I were to watch, which I did, watch Captain Marvel, and then I'm seeing her in Infinity War, I'm all like, I felt like I didn't actually need to watch Captain Marvel, because, like, I didn't feel that her emphasis on there was as dramatic as it, or a big of a payoff, versus, say, obviously Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, and then, like, seeing Spider-Man come back, and, like, those things are, like, all, like, there's, like, pretty big payoff for all that stuff. But, again, do I want to invest, like, how much are we willing to invest in another, 100, like, movies and no...
That's up to the individual.
I know, yeah, exactly. So it's just, I'm just saying, it could potentially be a double-edged sword where it's like, are we going to, like, is it like, are we making, how much connected is the movie's going to be? Like, to a point where it's, like, enough to say that it was worth it to go through all that, and then at the same time, how do you make it where it's not the case? But again, unpopular opinion in the sense that probably want to, like, dial it back with the, like, the connect, like, having too many, like, having too much of it interconnected, because we're going to get more kerfuffles like the, text of 8 years. It was like, oh, we made a mistake there. We totally, and then that's just a small thing, but versus what if they really fuck it up with, like, a story that just like, oh crap, we gotta eject button, hurry, retcon the story, which, comics do that all the time.
Just won't mention it though. Like they did
Yeah.
that with the Spider-Man thing and the whole, like, the whole time thing, and then
And they never,
entire scene, like, talk with Happy's talking about, like, oh, this is Cap's other shield, and we're gonna get Thor's Magus and all this stuff, and, like, they just never refer to that again.
yeah.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's I definitely, I see your point. It is a complicated issue for sure, because the continuity is what makes it a universe. Like, that's why people invest. Like, is because of that continuity and because of that through line. But it definitely makes it less accessible. I don't know that that's necessarily. I don't know that that's a bad thing though. Like, just because something is less, you can't please everybody,
Oh yeah, certainly.
So I don't necessarily. I don't know. It's a multifaceted issue.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying there's no, like, there is going to be, like, there's, like, a yes or no to it, but definitely, like, something to kind of think about. If in the creator standpoint, I'd say it's very difficult. I'm not saying that they have an easy answer for this, but it's also, like, concern of, like, how do you get people into it later on, you know what I mean?
Concerned that it's going to be less accessible to new watchers.
Right, or rather,
A lot of required reading.
yeah, there's comes to a certain point where I don't want to do homework before getting entertained.
It'd be like, playing MGS4 from the get-go and be expected to, like, understand every single one of the best.
Right.
Patriots, what?
Yeah,
Woman. So
exactly.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
I guess we'll see in the future. That definitely doesn't track now, because more people see every Avengers movie than the last one. So clearly
For sure.
a lot of people are keeping up. So I guess we'll have to see, like, going forward if that continues.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not saying it's happening necessarily. It was just like, somebody had an interesting comment that I, like, it kind of rang a bell in me. Thinking about, comics as it is, like, it's hard enough to get into the comics, because it's like, again, I mean, Carl said it exactly. It was so hard to get into because you don't know where you want to, where you can start. And then it's kind of a double-edged sword where they retcon it to do those things to make it, like, people involved in,
I think that's gonna be, because you were talking about.
That's scary.
Impasse, I think that will be the impasse.
Yeah.
If they ever decide to retcon the MCU, I'm leaving. Like, I love
Yeah, I don't.
but, like,
Me
I'm
too.
not-
I don't like that.
I'm not sticking around for that.
Yeah, I hate like whole universe rebooting and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's just, I think the
So much more interesting to watch writers write their way out of a corner. Create
yeah.
a corner,
I think that's the thing of what the biggest difference between Marvel and DC, that I think I like DC better, where they've approached it where the universe exists still. Like, the previous universe that you loved still exists, and they have the and
It does now, yeah.
like they don't
For a while, they were like, we don't want to do the whole
right like wipe it, yeah.
reverse thing, but finally they caved, and that's definitely the right decision.
Right, and then like it makes more sense to do it that way. You can just like suspend your disbelief in the sense, this is my version of Batman that I like, and this is the universe that I'm like, invested in. Like there may be other versions of Batman that may come up later in the years and stuff like that, but you still can say that, hey, this is still my Batman type of thing.
Right.
But yeah, that's
Like Batflick is your Batman.
what?
Batflick is your Batman.
Batfleck all the way. I like the big one. He's thick. That Batman's thick,
Did you watch all of Justice League?
Wait, which one?
How
Oh, the movie.
It's not worth watching.
How
Yeah, the
okay
movie,
with
yeah.
how okay with Batflick? Like I watched 10 minutes of that movie and I realized
I mean,
He wasn't really Batman, honestly. Like it felt like he changed characters from the, like, was it Batman versus Superman?
Right.
It went from like him making it just really like it just basically they were all like, no, make it more funny, like
yeah, they did. They
quipping
made it
joint.
more lighthearted for sure.
Yeah, so it was like a little off-putting.
he was a little bit less murderous.
Sure, I
Yeah,
guess.
much less murderous, I guess. I mean, he still murdered people, but
Yeah.
Just like Batman is wont to do.
I mean, I honestly like Ben Affleck as especially as Bruce Wayne. I think he makes a good Bruce Wayne, like especially like an older, more cynical Bruce Wayne.
Mm.
And I don't think he's a bad Batman. I just think the writing is fucking
Yeah.
garbage.
That's what I was gonna say. Because I mean, Ben Affleck is a good actor. Like, it's been a
Yeah.
very long time since since Daredevil.
Yeah.
Or was it Gil or what was that? Jiggly. There you go. All right. Hey, there's always gonna be those bad movies.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
always
the same
gonna happen.
thing as that we were talking about it a little bit last week when we were talking about the Batman trailer, but it's the same thing that's going on with Pattinson, where people are like, well, he did Twilight.
Yeah.
It's like one series of movies.
Just let
like a decade ago, like give the guy a fucking break.
Yeah. Let the movie live and die on its own merit. Not fucking just going out of the way. It's kind of pretty ridiculous.
It's like, guys, we've all matured past Twilight, even the
Oh yeah.
Twilight,
Right.
Matured past that.
Actually, I wanted to you know what? Now that we mentioned it, there's another one too. Was that so the story in the live action Justice League is pretty just stupid. The villain's stupid. Just a lot of stupid things happening. But at least they got one thing right. Was just when the jokes and the things that they were kind of banter off of each other was like, okay, that kind of make like if I was like a fan of like the not the Justice League animation, not like the 90s one, like that was a completely different beast. I'm talking about like if you were to like you already know these characters, then it's okay, that makes sense that they would make these jokes with each other. But then like it I couldn't see how like people that are just getting into it would understand why they're making these jokes. So yeah, like another unpopular opinion was that like I felt that there was that recent animated one, which by the way the current animation is kind of just garbage now, just because I hate the just dark was it Justice League Dark Apocalypse, whatever the call. Yeah, I think that was just garbage. I did not like that at all. It really actually ruined it for me, like because it's again like this whole thing. If you watch all these animations, all in the same universe, but then they just fucking drop the ball at the very end and be all like, oh we're just gonna retcon it all, and it was like what, why? So I didn't like that, but I did like it when they did the first one where they introduced the characters like as this is post was it the big reset, that Flashpoint, there you go. So this is post Flashpoint where they are showing the League just now meeting each other, and they're gonna face Apocalypse and stuff like that. And that was like, it was serviceable. It wasn't not. It definitely was not 90s Justice League. I mean, first of all, it was a movie versus a series, but the jokes that they had were like pretty funny when he had like Batman pulling tricks and jokes on Green Lantern, almost making him look like an idiot, but it was just very like funny. Like, I liked it just because I knew their background, and it's funny to see them meet again. And it was funny to have things like anything that had, what was it, the actor that plays Flash, any scene with him in it was funny. Like, I like that actor a lot. I like him in like the movies that he's been in, and he plays a good Flash. Like, it's just too bad that, you know, his first Flash was that one of all ones. Was it Ezra Miller, right?
Oh man, yeah, he's alright.
Yeah.
What other movies has he made?
He's in those Fantastic Beasts movies. I mean.
Yeah, that one's one of the more recent ones, but I think there was a movie that before that I liked him in. I can't remember what it was.
The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
But is it? I don't.
It's
The one with Emma Watson.
Yeah. I think it was that one. I can't remember which movie I saw him in prior to any of the.
Oh, we need to talk about Kevin. That's probably the one you were talking about. It's some British comedy.
A British comedy? What?
Yeah, there's some sort of British comedy. We need to talk about Kevin.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure no one.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sure that even if you ask them, you'd be like,
Yeah, 2011. This is a while ago. Yeah. All right. So who's next?
I guess I am. I have a few things, but I guess, I mean, we're already talking about like the cinematic universes. So I guess I'll just say I love the MCU, but I guess my unpopular opinion would be, and this is kind of, I guess I'll unintentionally play devil's advocate for part of this argument as well, as I'm making it.
just say it. We brave. We're here to support you.
Well, I'm just explaining to the audience, because I literally am just making this up right now. I have other ones that I had written down, but I'm just like going off what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, that's. Sorry. I'll interject. Like just for people that don't know us, we do like what we're like. It may be an unpopular opinion that we're gonna say, but we still enjoy these things. It's not like we're gonna be in the theater going boo, and then like attacking people. No, like we're not that type of people. You know.
Yeah, we're not.
I only send death threats like maybe 2-3 times a week.
Right.
By the way, if you send death threats to people, you're pretty much the scum.
Yeah. So spending extra time for that. Like, don't you have anything better to do? Anyways, go on.
So my unpopular opinion, I guess, is that while I really like that, like, because for a long time, or not for a long time, the X-Men movies have been like hit or miss. You had like the ones from like 2000, 2003 X-Men, X2, and then you've had some failings, like The Last Stand and things like that. There's been hit and miss stuff. As of late with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, it's been pretty bad. But like, now it's under the umbrella of Marvel, and while I'm interested in Fantastic Four is too, and I guess all of those movies have been pretty bad. But while I'm happy that they're all under the umbrella of Marvel, because now we're probably gonna get, hopefully, and just based on Marvel's track record, Marvel Studios track record, they'll probably like be able to integrate all those characters and teams into the universe really well, and it'll be super satisfying. I don't like. While I like that, I don't like that because I don't like Marvel having a monopoly on everything. Because this, like, even though I don't like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I still like the idea that we can get something separate from the MCU and have a different interpretation of villains and storylines and stuff. Marvel is obviously a subsidiary of Disney, which owns everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they already have a monopoly on so many different things. Like, I mean, we'll talk about it in a future episode that we've been talking about a lot off air in terms of Star Wars stuff. But like, the way they, whether you like the new movies or not, like the way I shit talk George Lucas all the time, and deservedly so. But like, at least he let people create shit outside of the movies. Like he gave people free reign to create all this fan fiction that became canon, like in the past and in the future of that timeline. And Disney just doesn't do that. They don't let people create. They're like, oh, you made this video? Okay, we're gonna take credit for it and then not give you credit for it. And then George Lucas is gonna actually have to come in and bail, like literally like stand up for you so that we'll give you back the rights to this thing that you poured your heart and soul into. So basically what I'm saying is I don't like the fact that all these new Marvel characters, all these teams that I love, especially the X-Men, are now just totally monopolized now. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Like it's definitely it's a two-way street, and I don't know. We'll have to see. They've said that they're not going to integrate X-Men in for a few years or whatever. But while I'm excited, I'm a little bit scared about that. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm with you, Apollo. Like, it's exciting to hear different studios, work in their own thing, and like.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you the fact that now that Marvel may have dominion over the Fantastic Four. That's the thing about that's the thing about having competing studios. They all have to at least try to forge their own identity, and by doing so, they try to give you different product that the other one can't really quite give you. So
Right.
it would be more interesting for this, for a studio to do something different than what Marvel is doing and see what they do with that material.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like it would be more interesting, and competition breeds innovation, right? So if you have two competing things, like it's more interesting. That's why, even though we were talking about the DC movies just now, but also last week about how they've been getting steadily better, and hopefully they'll one day be able to compete with the Marvel movies, so that they will each have to work harder to be better, and that will push them to do different things and to take more risks and do different things. And I really want that day to come. And so, like, again, like, God forbid, I mean, I don't think that this would necessarily happen, but again, Disney already owns everything, but God forbid DC should be acquired by Disney. Like, because
This is so weird.
there's no chance of any competition ever happening.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a multi-pronged issue there.
We wouldn't want the homogenization of all the stories. Like DC should
Yeah.
have their own identity, Marvel should have their own identity, even if it's like sections of Marvel that had their own identity, like Deadpool. That's
Yeah. Yeah, I mean exactly. I mean that's the thing. Like before the whole, I mean, we've gotten the MCU stuff, which feels, whether it's better or worse, it feels different than something like the Deadpool stuff, which feels different than the X-Men stuff. Like, and even though the X-Men stuff is hit or miss on screen, it's still the ones that are good are really good, and they feel so different than the MCU. You know, they feel so different than like all those movies, and it's I think that's really important to maintain that, because like I I don't honestly I don't want to see Deadpool in the MCU. I don't like, because like what are they gonna do? Are they gonna? I mean, they've said before that we're gonna keep an R rating and stuff, but I don't know if I believe them. Like, I don't know if
Right.
are they gonna dilute Deadpool and we're gonna see him like just popping up, breaking the fourth wall in the next Avengers movie? Like, I don't really want that. Like, it's cool in the comics, but based on these universes that they've already established, and ones like X-Men where they've spent like basically 2 decades now establishing that universe that is now just intrinsically connected to the MCU, like it's I don't know, like you lose something with that, and yeah. Again, it's sort of a dual thing of being excited and a little scared about that, because I don't know how much, like I don't know how far Marvel Studios is willing to go at this point, now that they have all these properties
Right.
under their umbrella. And I guess it kind of ties into what you were saying before, Sean, about like it being like, because you know, like you were saying, like for some newcomers it's tough to get into the MCU. But I mean, that was before they had the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and Deadpool. Like, what is it going to be like in 5 years?
Yeah.
When all those characters are tangled together on screen. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I got confused at that point. You know, like it's just like, I don't know. There's too much of a good thing is it can always become a bad thing. So like, too much of anything can always become a bad thing. So yeah, we'll have to see, but.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly right now we're all in the speculative mode, which is but it is definitely valid to be concerned about like where they're gonna take it. I mean, it's like there's like news of like what the director of the Doctor Strange really wants to go for like a traditional horror movie, and you could tell that Kevin Feige's like nah, he's like it's still gonna be not R-rated, like we're not doing R-rated. But
I really want to see that Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, it sounds like
movie with Doctor Strange, like and like Scarlet Witch being the apprentice to Doctor Strange, and they're going through all these like horrifying dimensions together. That's
right.
Fucking awesome. Like, and that's the thing. It's just like we like one of the best X-Men movie, maybe, you know, arguably maybe the best is Logan, right? Like, and it's like so savage, and it's so like it really gets into the characters and who he is and all these things. And Professor X's whole story about him like accidentally killing all the X-Men, like and his breaking his mind. Like, are we gonna, the next time we see Wolverine and Professor X, like what are they? They're different, but like, are we ever gonna get something else like that now? You know, like because Logan was actually part of its own canon. Like, they took a little bit from like some of the other movie canon, but like Logan was its own timeline. Like, and so like, can they even do that anymore? Like, I don't think they can. I don't think Marvel Studios will allow that. You know, like, so yeah, I don't know. Like, I think we might be. I mean, we are at the end of an era, but I think we might have seen some of those things like Logan and maybe even Deadpool the way it was. Like, that might be the last time we see stuff like that with those characters.
Right.
Which is tragic, honestly, because like those are, again, those are like the really special ones. Like, those are the ones that people talk about and people remember, and like, you honestly, you can just jump into Deadpool. You can just jump into Logan, even if you haven't seen any other movies. Like, it's not, and again, that's sort of the double-edged sword of having a cinematic universe. While it is really good, you can lose stuff, and you can kind of lose the plot sometimes. So, you know, again, like, it's true, we are only in this speculative stage, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's interesting to talk about, of like what they could be doing next and how could they approach it. Yeah, you know, and at the same time too, we were also, I remember before like Deadpool or even Logan came out, actually, I think we were talking about how like even like an R-rated, we're all like, doesn't even need to be R-rated. Like, I don't want to like like, is it necessary to go that far? And then, they kind of proved wrong in the sense that they did it, and they could still do a decent, entertaining, or
Well, yeah.
interesting story.
It was what the story needed, right? It
Right.
needed to be rated R. It's not that, like, I mean, there's definitely an easy way to do that wrong, and just to shoehorn in profanity and nudity for just, man, may have to be completely superfluous and not serve to the story. But like, I was just thinking too, because we're talking about, like, the MCU now being tangled with all these new characters. I was just thinking, like, what about like, you look at something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is, it just ended, and it was super different. Like, I mean, it started off kind of the same, but then eventually it veered off and it became something different. And the MCU and, like, Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, they intentionally kept their distance from that show until the show eventually just made its own timeline, and because it was trying to explore different story elements that couldn't be contained in the MCU universe. It couldn't, like, adhere to all the canon without sacrificing some of its story.
Right.
And then you look at like the Netflix shows like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, like, and again, the MCU, there's a few mentions here and there of, like, Thor's hammer or Cap's shield, but, like, they intentionally kept their distance from those shows. They're like, now Daredevil and Jessica Jones, they're never going to be in the movies. Like, their stories are never going to have any consequences on the movies ever. And, like, I mean, that's
Or seasons now.
Yeah, I mean, now they don't even exist. But it's just like, and that's stuff that they've already established. Like, I don't know. I guess that stuff alone kind of shows, like, if you're not marching to the exact beat of what the MCU is, like, you don't belong here. It's basically what they're saying, and I don't subscribe to that at all. Like, I don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
There.
It's so exclusionary. I don't like it. It really, in one way, it's nice to, like, it definitely does feel like homework to watch some of the MCU movies sometimes. And it's like, okay, I guess I gotta watch the next movie, and, like, just so I know what's every single thing that's gonna happen in the next Avengers movie or whatever. But it's just like, but like, it's fun and stuff to know, to sort of to watch in something like Endgame and watch, like, all these other movies, and it's a culmination, and you get, like, all these bits and pieces that not everyone's gonna get. That's cool, but at the same time, there's a limit for that. Like, you don't want to, like, blatantly exclude people from even enjoying a movie simply because they haven't watched every property.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to pull off. I think it's also, like, another thing to, like, a hard thing to pull off for, like, creatively, as, like, those writers and directors that had to take these movies on. And it's just, like, I'm curious, like, what kind of directions do they give, if anything, that they need to hold themselves accountable to do in their movies. But from what I've heard, like, they're pretty much given a lot of free reign to just approach the movie in whatever way that they want.
For the most part, they definitely have to adhere to the continuity, but, like,
right.
I mean, like, it a lot of times it depends on, like, how big the movie is, because I know with, like, Age of Ultron, that was Joss Whedon directed the first Avengers, and then he directed and wrote that one, and he also directed and wrote Age of Ultron, and he was talking about how, like halfway through production, Marvel sort of was like, no, we want you to go this way with the story. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. And he's like, but, like, we're about to start shooting. Like,
yeah, that's like a headache. Yeah.
You want me to like just change the story like a couple of weeks before we start shooting? And they're like, yeah, we want you to go this way so that it leads to this next movie, and we're planting the seeds for, I guess what eventually became Infinity War. But and it shows with the Age of Ultron. Like, I think like half of that movie is pretty good, and the other half is garbage, and, like, it fucking shows. Like, it's not congruent all the way through, and So yeah, I mean it. I think obviously we don't work at Marvel Studios, so we don't know all the ins and outs of it. But like, so I think it just depends on the movie, like, and definitely how big it's gonna be. I think with Avengers movies and those tentpole movies that like everybody's gonna see, you definitely it's much more rigid. Like you have to adhere to this, to this formula.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely things that they just the directors don't have complete creative freedom. Ant-Man is, for example, another example of this.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
created
yeah.
by- yeah. It was
For
made
years, it was developed by Edgar Wright. Yeah.
I know. I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
That man does not know how to make a bad movie.
And they still ended up using his script, which is why I think that the first one is so good. But it does show that, like with the second one was definitely missing something that the first one had. Like the second one was, yeah, I mean it is pretty forgettable. That's the thing. It wasn't bad, but it was just like forget it as soon as you walk out of the theater. So yeah.
Yeah, it's more of like I checked that off my list.
I mean, another thing is like about Doctor Strange. Like Benedict Cumberbatch is awesome. He's a great actor. But like I remember before, like Joaquin Phoenix wanted to be Doctor Strange, and I don't necessarily know that he would have been a better Strange than Benedict Cumberbatch. But the only reason that he didn't sign up for it was because Marvel was like, no, you gotta if you want to do this movie, you gotta do 6 other movies. And
What?
I get it. Like
Oh, I see.
franchise.
Right. 6 movies. So you do this movie, but now you have to do 5 other
Yeah,
movies after.
you're
Right.
contracted to do these
Yeah.
other
Okay.
six movies.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of actors talk about how like they kind of like do I really want to just like that's a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's a big decision. I mean, Chris Evans has talked about it a lot. Like when when they first offered him the role of Captain America, like he was like, "This is a big role and it'll change my life." And he's like, "I don't regret doing it for sure, but like, it is a total, like it changes your lifestyle
Yeah.
completely, and it changes which movies
Huge investment.
and which ones you can't. Like you can't like if you're on a fucking 6 or some of them are on like a 9 movie contract, like you're gonna miss out on a lot of projects that you want to do, like
Mhm.
other projects outside of Marvel, and you it's a big decision.
Yeah.
So, like don't take it lightly.
Yeah, and even afterwards, it can be really tough, as
Yeah.
far as casting new movies. Like, I was reading an article about, Daisy Ridley. She was, saying how it's actually really hard for her to find a job now. Nobody wants to hire.
Well, what do you think about Daniel
For her, too,
Daniel Radcliffe?
specifically, because like The Force Awakens was her first movie.
Yeah.
Like John Boyega and like Oscar Isaacs and Adam Driver, like they were already established actors before Star Wars. So I think it's easier for people to sort of go, oh well, he's Poe or he's Finn, but like, he was also these other characters before, so he can like. I think it's easier for audiences to accept. Whereas with Daisy Ridley, like first and foremost in people's minds, she is Rey.
Right.
It makes it so much harder for her to like transition out of that.
She is doing like other small, like kind of like interesting movies though, but I haven't seen those yet. It's kind of like
Yeah.
on the bucket list of things. But yeah, she what was it that she was playing? Yeah, it was like last year, I think.
I mean, she's been in other movies since the Star Wars movies. She was in like Murder on the Orient Express. And stuff
That
like
was definitely one of them I
Which
wanted
was
to
really
watch.
good. That movie
Yeah.
was excellent.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the movies I wanted to watch. They're doing another murder mystery movie.
It's the sequel. The
I knew it.
Death on the Nile. Yeah.
Yeah, Death in the Nile, right. Dawn of Art? No. Ophelia. I think that's another movie that she's like the main actress in.
I know she has like a movie with Tom Holland that was like they filmed like 2 years ago or something. That it's, like,
Right.
Finally releasing this year.
Yeah, it's like in development hell from
Yeah.
what I've been hearing. Which is interesting. It's interesting with those movies and stuff with development hell. Anyways, yeah. Um. Anybody else has anything else to add?
Yes, the Wii remote and all the motion controllers, they were perfectly fine. Leave them alone.
You really believe that?
Um, you know, I don't care so much about the waggle controls and all the motion stuff like that. It's definitely very peripheral, but very just basic. But I really do miss the pointer style, aiming from the Switch.
Mm,
From the Switch.
yeah.
Like that, it's the kind of thing that like we were discussing before. Made Resident Evil 4 for the Wii pretty much arguably the best version of it.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people just didn't understand that you didn't have to aim like you would with a gun. You could just use it as a
Right.
style.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a really perfectly, a perfectly good aiming style. And wish that developers had tried to. I wish somebody gave it a another shot so that we could see how much you could push that kind of technology because I think it can combine the best of the aim traditional like aiming skills for first person shooters. Like, there's one thing I don't like about mouse and keyboard is actually using the keyboard like mouse and keyboard in the traditional
Right.
first person shooters just because it just doesn't give you that kind of analog control to your spacing. It's all straight and back and forth.
Right.
But yeah, being able to aim with the mouse is just super free. And for the Wii, since you had that kind of nunchuck style, you had the analog stick on one hand and the pointer style on the other, it just kind of gave you a freedom that you just wouldn't really find with any other controls.
Mm.
Like VR closes like that. Like it.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
Get up by VR because it has a similar wand control scheme and it has sticks on some VR controllers. It really depends though, because even though that's on PC, it's not going to be integrated by every video game maker on the planet. So, I mean, it just means it's out of Nintendo's hands, so they're not going to mess around with that as much.
Well, I
Even
mean-
though the Switch Joy-Cons kind of have something similar. It doesn't have like something
Yeah,
that reads the
it is-
space on it.
That kind of motion-based aiming is kind of getting a resurgence with the Switch. Pretty much every first-person shooter or kind of shooter type game like always gets like people always request, hey, give it gyro controls.
There's what about the Half-Life Half-Life
Yeah,
Alex?
with Half-Life Alex, like it is what you were saying, D'Angelo, where it is sort of a price of admission thing, like because like Half-Life Alex was like it was reviewed incredibly well, and everybody that played it was like it's the best VR game ever. But like most people watched it, they didn't play it because they couldn't afford the Vive, and most developers who are developing VR aren't Valve, and they don't have billions of dollars that can go into developing a game like that.
Right.
So it's as of now it is unfortunately a thing where it's just like they're pretty much limited by costs, and they're gonna have to work around that and sort of find ingenious ways to up the technology without like upping the cost too much, and that's unfortunately gonna take more time.
Yeah, it's more likely a time issue right now. When it gets cheaper to make that kind of devices, unfortunately.
I mean, the next leap for say something like PlayStation, VR is definitely gonna be just getting rid of all those cables.
And actually like having proper controllers, not the fucking decade-old Move controller.
Yeah, the moves that didn't actually work back when they were made.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point, they should just start having functionality with other VR headsets instead of just like trying to slap with your hand on it. Because that's the one thing I don't like about proprietary.
Yeah.
Always need to be a thing. Like some things
Yeah.
can just be more common or shared. So,
I agree, but Sony will never do that. They're 100% proprietary all the time. They're very guarded about all their stuff. So.
Yeah, sometimes 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 in the business standpoint, that's like better for them to, so that people just don't start
Sure.
like
I mean,
you know.
the PSVR is the best-selling headset because it's the cheapest.
Right.
So, you know,
Yeah.
Mine gathering dust.
yeah, most people are. Yeah.
It's great for the 3 games that they will take advantage of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. There's a lot of potential there, and it's just that it just can't be tapped so well. Just because.
You know, it's never going to live up to the promise, you know, that we kind of naively all had at first, that it would replace, you know, regular gaming. It's like we realized no.
I never
Yes.
thought that. Some people thought
Yeah.
that. But I mean, like, the thing
Some
about
people,
VR,
I don't know who.
I mean, the thing about VR is like it does have, it will. I think it definitely will eventually get there, but it has so many more interesting applications outside of game. Like there's so many different things that you can do with VR that are not game related at all. So
remote surgery.
yeah, I mean there's things
Or-
like, I mean they're already doing it with like astronaut simulations and stuff like that, and like helping people with mental illness. Like there's so many different things that you can do with it. I think it's just gonna take way longer than anybody is willing to admit.
Yeah, even more so willing to invest. You know, who has that kind of money to just throw it at something that they don't think is gonna, you know, for the sake of, you know, humankind. Like, who does that? No one spends their money for, you know, for at the goodness of their heart. That's people have a hard time just giving like $5 to a homeless person. I don't think they're gonna spend millions on something that like they don't even know if it's gonna actually like return in any sort of revenue in the next 10 years or something. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I agree though. Like we're not gonna see. I mean, remember Virtual Boy? I mean, does anybody remember that? Like, jeez.
That's night and day technology. Though. 'Cause Virtual Boy was
No, it's I the hype around it.
master and only one color.
Yeah.
VR is different because there's effective displays and screens. So
Yes, I understand that the technology is very different, but the hype around it was trying to build it up to a point where it's like this is gonna
like, oh, this is the next step.
yeah. They're always trying to like replace, like, this is the next generation. This is what it's gonna be in the future. Buy the future now.
the 32-bit successor to the Game Boy. With
Yeah.
graphics and the
Mhm.
set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the whole, you know, let's buy the toy, and like there's nothing gonna be coming from it other than just like, I have it now. The device issue. Although I do say that Nintendo did do a good job with like stuff like the 3DS and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's funny because they always pretended that those consoles were not going to be replaced in the game. Like, type,
3DS.
oh no, this is not trying to replace the Game Boy Advance. This is just a complement.
Oh my god.
Same thing with the Switch. They're like, no, this is not replacing the This is just.
Like the Wii U on the market. This isn't going anywhere. Ha ha ha.
Oh my god. I mean, like, what is it worth? I mean, like there's no point for a 3DS now. I mean, if you have a Switch, just get all your good games from there, or whatever games is left.
Fact, you know, I would be happy if like they ported some 3DS games to the Switch.
Right.
Played
I mean, it's a giant port machine anyways. They might as well go for it. It's
I
unfortunate.
pretty much play my Switch like 90% of the time in portable.
Yeah, I actually just recently was playing Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and I remember that back in the fucking, was it GameCube days, they tried to do that whole thing where you could use your Game Boy Advance as a controller. It's like, but why?
Oh, yeah.
But why? Why was it necessary?
Oh, man,
There
I
was-
forgot about that.
That was so unnecessary. But yeah, but now, like, you know, playing it where it has like matchmaking and stuff like that, so you could pop into anybody's game and stuff like that, I was like, oh man, this is a breath of fresh air. Because I remember when it's like, oh, did I want to play online? Nope, you had to buy some stupid device to make your GameCube play online. And then it's like, oh, could you even find anybody? Probably not, because they don't also have the device, so you're never going to get it online.
Yes, but can you chat with them? For the apparatus.
Oh my god. Oh no, you don't need it. Actually, they added a way where you can do text prompt chats. So
Oh boy.
you don't. It's all like pre-made though. So like you can't complicate. You can't talk. Yeah. They have it. They don't have it so that you.
Another half step. Like,
Yeah, it really is.
come on.
Yeah. Learn the internet. Do internet things.
Hopefully they bring it for their successor. There's rumors that we'll be seeing a successor for the Switch next year.
That's so
I'm
soon, man.
not surprised.
You think so?
It's,
I think it's too
yeah,
soon.
It's only been 3 years since it released.
Yeah, I agree that it's been too
And
soon.
it's
But I know it's gonna happen.
doing really well. I mean, like they're harder to find now, but like it's still like the numbers are like up every month. It's like I don't know. It's just another sort of one of Nintendo's odd choices, like not having the virtual console and not just like putting all your classic IP like in one place and having to make people keep buying the same game again and
Oh yeah.
again every time the system comes out, rather than
Oh.
just, like letting them have the game and just over the course of many.
They seriously gotta learn their lesson, because it's catching up, because the people are complaining about all the like, oh, you have to buy this game for the next gen again. Like, ever since a whole bunch of, what was it, Xbox Live is making it retroactive, and then like fucking CD Projekt Red is like saying, yo, nope, you buy Cyberpunk for this gen, you already get it for the next gen. We got you, fam.
Yeah, I mean that's like something with Control, where it's like it's a game that's like they're making people buy it again for the next game, the next gen.
Right,
Like,
and Nintendo's need
one
to.
game. Like Nintendo
Yeah.
does that with every game they have.
Mhm.
Like it's like come
It's like, yeah, it's like people could complain about what fucking Call of Duty is doing, where they charging two prices for basically the same game for two different consoles. But at the same time, we could also be saying, but Nintendo's been doing this for like how long now? Like, when are we gonna point the finger that direction? Hopefully though that they get something going. One can hope.
on. So,
Yeah, they get too much of a pass with, giving the public like subpar.
It's like the same game every generation, every console that comes out, and they just like come out with another console like the moment, like it's not even halfway through the generation of one.
it's such an enigmatic business practice that they got going over there, where it's like, but your system's doing really well, like, and it's selling more and more units every month. It's like, yeah, we're gonna go to something else. It's like,
What is that? Like, what can you can you like relate that to like a character or like some TV show? I feel like there is like some sort of character that did something weird like that. I can't really think of like the show, but I just know that there is a character and a show that has somebody that just like at their peak of success, they just just nosedive it. Yeah, but then they still make it. Like Nintendo should have honestly tanked around the time Sega went downhill. like it's amazing that Nintendo's been lasting the way it has in terms of just like, coming out with the games that they have and constantly coming out with new consoles.
I mean, they've sold fewer and fewer consoles every generation since the SNES until like the anomaly that was the Wii.
Yeah.
But that was only because so many people bought Wii Sports. So by the time, yeah, exactly, and they would take it out for barbecues and stuff. So by the time that generation, or by the time that console was like out the door and it was done, like the attach rate was terrible. And then like you got the Wii U, which sold something like 14 million, something terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, now you're seeing another anomaly with the Switch, so it's where it's like doing insanely well. So I don't know. I don't know if they'll learn their lesson. I hope they learn it before it's too late.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there are just some things like that, like we were talking about, that just like, you've been doing this for decades, guys. You really need to just like do better in these departments. Like the things you do well, you do really, really well. But
right,
you gotta fix some of these like core issues.
Yeah, they could. It's like it's almost as if they have the potential to do even better, they just don't.
Yeah,
or there's just something's holding them back. I don't know what it is.
Well, that might be a good argument again for the pro version of the Switch. Just like PlayStation did a pro version of their PlayStation. Because the Switch is capable of doing in-game chat. I said you can actually do it on Fortnite, but it is pretty subpar. Like, just the sound quality is just it's pretty poor. It may be just down to like a hardware issue.
Yeah, that would make sense then.
I hope that it is a pro version that they're coming out with instead of just like a new console entirely, because like the Switch is awesome, and like, but there's no way that like the Switch that we have now, like I know they don't really compete with Xbox or PlayStation, and they're not really trying to, and that's actually I think that's great, but like it's like that console is a port machine, and you're porting over PS4 and Xbox games now to like not The Witcher like is that's not the way to play that game, and some of these other games that are like ported over, it's just like this is very passable and you can get away with this, but you're not going to be able to do this when the new consoles come out. So I do hope that it is a pro version, so that we can still keep getting people who they want to play their games on the Switch. They can still keep getting next gen games on the Switch, but without having to without making a new console where it's like, well, what will this console be? What gimmick will they have now? Like, what will it be? Will it be another Switch, or will it be a Wii U situation again? Like, what are we dealing with? Like, it would be much better for the consumer if there was just some certainty of it's just like, well, you might have to buy another Switch, but it's a better version of a console that's already great, rather than something new that may be bad.
Right.
I did that before with the 3DS and the Nintendo DS, DSi. So I kind of wonder if it's just going to be one of those scenarios where it's like, technically the system is forward compatible, so it can work with the old Switch, but it's just that it may either have different settings you could toggle, or it might toggle a different mode on it. So I don't know. I could see it working that way. Where actually even before those, the Game Boy Color, where you were Game Boy Color games still worked on the original Game Boy. So I think it might be the console equivalent of that if they decide to go that route. And there may be games that only work on the Pro version. Who knows? But there may be games that can still work on either one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the most feasible way to do it. But I don't know. That depends on what the game plan is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard to tell at this point. Hopefully they make some good choices. Services and that type of stuff is like what they're really lacking, and I think a lot of their competition is beating them at that. And then there's of course like I don't know what kind of investment they do on like having games being made for their fucking system, but like they really, I don't feel like they always come out with like this good technology, but no one fucking is making games that kind of push the boundaries of what that could potentially mean. I mean, there's just always this kind of weird gap of like they have a lot of things that has features on there that developers could be, tapping into, but it just never sees the light of day. Hopefully we like really see like a just a resurgence or like a renaissance on that, because I'd like to see Nintendo be like, like really just killing it in terms of just demolishing the other consoles, because at this point right now it's always like a fight between just Sony and Microsoft. And there's they're always getting these. Yeah, for now, like there's this thing about like exclusivities and stuff like that, and obviously like they invest in like those studios to make like their kind of premium games.
I mean, the thing is that like it's the only way for Nintendo to actually be able to be in that position is for them to really, really beef up the power on their system. Because whether you like it or not, that's the reason why a lot of people go to PlayStation and Xbox over Nintendo, is for the powers, for the graphics. Now, I don't necessarily, like, I don't think graphics make a better game in any way, but, like, a lot of people do. And the first thing that people look at when they see an E3 demo or something is, like, how good are the graphics? Like, I mean, that, like, we saw it recently with Halo Infinite, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like, that came out, and it's just, like, people are like, what the fuck is this? It looks fucking terrible. Like,
yeah.
And now Microsoft is, delayed it a year.
We're doubling down.
People love Optimus Primal.
He really is the Optimus Primal. It's fucking hilarious.
But yeah, I get it, because it's such a taboo. No one really wants to admit that the graphics are appealing, but I can tell you right now, whenever anyone Nintendo faithful sees the graphics are looking sweet in their camp, they will fucking ride that shit like the wind. Like,
yeah.
If you have a Pokemon game that you have Sword and Shield going like, oh look, these trees look bad, that's terrible. But show them Pokemon Snap, they're like, oh my god, Namco is doing so well with the graphics.
Right.
Like a real game to look like this. It's like
yeah, and they're like hint.
Don't try to fucking hide. I get it though, because like it doesn't have to be realistic graphics. It just has to be very appealing to look at, very crisp, colorful.
Right.
Like I get really tired of this narrative of, oh, if you the graphics, you're all about this, or if you're all about the graphics, you must hate art directions. Like, look,
right.
You can have good art direction and you can have good graphics. And
yeah, it happens all the time.
There are some very beautiful PS4 games. Like, I was telling my brother about Until Dawn, going like, you should play that game. It is like playing your Choose Your Own Adventure horror movie.
How dare you say the graphics are what a horde does for money?
Even something like the 2016 Ratchet and Clank remake, which is now 4 years old, like games have been saying forever, people have been saying forever about so many new games, like, oh man, it looks like a Pixar movie that you can play, but it doesn't really. But then like with that game, Ratchet and Clank, it was like, oh shit, this is actually that. Like this is legit, like the remake is not only way better than the original with a way better story, but it actually looks better than a Pixar movie, and it's like 50 hours of open world amazingness. Like you can totally have it all, and it would be really cool to. I mean, imagine that ecosystem where Microsoft and Sony don't just they not only have to worry about each other, but now they have to worry about Nintendo competing with them. Like, I mean, that would be amazing. That would be an ecosystem I would want to live in, because like again, like we were saying before,
there's no
innovation.
Yeah.
That's only better for the industry if that were to happen.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point too. Right now, I feel like we've been going through a drought. It's like, I feel like I'm kind of not getting enough of like enough games to kind of like say I want to go and play them. Like I still have a lot of games I need to kind of go through. Like it's just like it's building up, but for this year I felt like it was just like there was just like, you know, not a lot.
There's a few like big ones, a few great,
Yeah.
but like they're sort of few and far between. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like the ones that I can just name right now, but they're like pretty big gaps between them, and one of them wasn't too crazy of a game that I was too like. I'm not gonna say it's like amazing. It's like so Final Fantasy remake that was one, and then Last of Us, and then there's Ghost of Tsushima, and like Tsushima was like it's a good game, but it doesn't blow my mind. Like I'm easily gonna forget about it in the next year, and this whole like few months it's just felt like it like there's not more reasons for me to like play anything on the Switch. I practically have to make excuses to play on the Switch, and then Xbox, like, you know, maybe there's a couple games on there I do want to play, but then otherwise it's just like it's the same thing. I think also it could be it maybe to some degree like the fact that you get so many different games that are just like ported from each other, so then at that point you just like it just boils down to what has the exclusive game you want to play, and yeah, and not even that now. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of exclusives, and that's my next point back to Nintendo is that the so far the service for being on the PSN network has been great, and Xbox is looking really enticing right now. So I feel like yeah. So like I'm just
Game Pass is insane.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So I feel like it's no longer necessarily about the console, but the service that comes with the console. So it's like I feel like that it's gonna suck away a lot of the competition on like just one console ruling it all, and then you don't have that same, and you just have to keep on waiting for the game to come out for that console, where it could have been great. It could be great if all three had like, you know, a lot of games that, you know, you really should be playing on either one.
And those top tier services to go.
Exactly. Then you would never have a situation where you felt like, oh, I beat this game, now I gotta wait for the next game.
And like you can go to like you want all of the systems, right?
Yeah.
It's such a long time since I wanted all of them. Like,
Yeah.
I have a PS4 and you guys got me a Switch, but I don't play it that often. Like I play a few games here and there on it, and that's it. And it's like, and in terms of Xbox, I don't want it at all. Like, and it's like, so I would love to be like, oh man, there's so much great stuff to play on all of these, and the services are like so competitive and amazing. Like I want everything. Like
yeah, it's been a long time since I've had all consoles at one point. You know, like all of them at one.
I mean, there's like you said, like there's no real reason to own some like an Xbox.
Yeah.
I mean, 85% of the games are third party, and they come to everything anyway. And then the exclusives are always better on PlayStation anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
PlayStation or Nintendo, you know, like.
Yeah, and that's I guess
Xbox has really been lacking this generation, unfortunately.
That's something that Nintendo has is gauging right now, right? Like how much do they need those third-party games concurrent with the
Yeah.
If you look at how Nintendo Switch is being carried, it's not by first-party exclusives.
Nope.
Not even.
It is in reports.
Yep.
It's like Smash Brothers, Animal Crossing, and Pokemon all come, of course, but when you look at the stuff that's in between any major releases, the major reason to buy a Switch is the eShop. And I say this because there's a lot of indies being ported to the eShop, and if you want something to play indies on the go, the Switch is your best.
Yeah. Actually, that's
the only reason to get a Switch.
That's actually been the case for me.
Rest in peace, Davida.
yeah.
I miss it. Yeah, it is 100%. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games they're not meant to be high high spec games. So it makes sense to play it on the Switch. And yeah, there are some indie games that don't run that well on the Switch. But all in all, if you're trying to play something and assuming you're not at home all the time and you're bringing your Switch with you, it's the most practical way to play things on the go, like Iconoclast and Owlboy and all those other types of games. I'm sure there's some stuff that falls in between, like Little Misfortune and all that. The whole point is just that if you don't have time to play these games on the couch, you can still play them on the go if you're commuting or something.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And I mean, as the technology advances, they're gonna lose the ability to gain a lot of those, ports for either,
Exactly. Yeah.
whatever is, current gen and whatever is, indie. Like, technology for indie developers actually does become better, so if you just
it's
keep
not
to
even that it becomes better, because all you really need to develop on any console is a PC or a Mac and the right kind of tool for it, because there are plenty of free development tools out there that you can download, or at least relatively affordable ones that can port to those systems.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need like a development kit that's like high end to work with those systems. The thing is, though, most indie developers feel more comfortable working with those specs. It's not a matter of power; it's just a matter of choice to go with that power or that aesthetic. Because you actually look at a lot of these seminars, the main reason why they gravitate towards that is that they don't have to rely on a big studio to get these games out. And
Yeah, I mean,
there are going to be some that look a bit more graphically impressive. It's not like they limit themselves. I wish I thought of the name of this game, but there's this one indie game where you play as a fox running through the forest. It's on a lot of systems.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Nintendo
Fate.
It's got like a yeah.
It's called Fate.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, that's one example of a higher spec game.
I mean, yeah. The issue comes when you're like when you have third-party AAA games, and that's the thing. Like Nintendo needs those too. Like you should be able to play like I said, like 85% of games between Xbox and PlayStation are third-party stuff that you can play on either one. But if PlayStation has better exclusives, then why would you go to Xbox? And that's the thing. Like Nintendo has incredible exclusives too, and if they were able to have the same like AAA third-party games that Microsoft and Sony have, but be able to like port them over without like them looking like complete garbage, the way that something like The Witcher does, like it's such a downgrade from like Switch from like any of the other system, then I mean that's what would sort of I feel like be the game changer for them. Because then they could, then they could be competitive.
Doom Eternal was supposed to come to Switch.
Yeah.
I think that's still in the pipeline, isn't it?
Are they still?
Yeah, they might be just doing a lot of
Yeah, I know the first one, or the 2016 one did, so it makes
Yeah.
sense.
I'm impressed with how scalable that engine is, but I was wondering if they just kind of low key just canceled the project, because Doom
Mhm.
Eternal is definitely it's just a much more demanding game than Doom the 2016 was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, every time I say they can't do it, they end up porting it over. Like, again, like something like The Witcher 3. But it's a matter of how good is it going to be once it gets there. Like, so.
Yeah, that's exactly what we probably want to see. I would definitely want to see a Switch Pro to be able
Yeah.
to get that a little bit more fidelity as far as the ports of games go.
Yeah.
I mean, as it is, they were already one generation behind, and now that the newer consoles are gonna come out, Switch is gonna be 2 generations behind.
I mean, that's why, I mean, I don't know. It's tricky, too, because they came out mid-generation from the other consoles. So, yeah, I mean, I would say just stick with the Switch and keep, like, iterating on that, honestly, until the PS6 and whatever the other Xbox is. to be perfectly honest, because like you're getting us. Not only could you iterate on like half steps, but you're getting exactly what D'Angelo was talking about, whereas it's this experience where you can't get it on Xbox or PlayStation, where you can play it at home and you can pick up and go and play it anywhere. And I think that, I mean, a lot that's appealing to a lot of people, which is why it sells so well. So I mean, just ride that wave and keep iterating on it, so you can keep porting stuff. Like I think that's honestly their best play until the next consoles, like not the next ones, the PS5, but like the next ones after that, the PS6 and stuff, because then you can launch with those at the same time and like actually be ready for that. Because launching mid-generation is always gonna pose a problem.
Yeah, you can't really think of any other single console that's not.
I mean,
Definitely a unique challenge
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think they also wanted to not compete against the other consoles at the same time. I think they just
they
make
definitely yeah. I mean, they've said they didn't want to compete. But
Yeah.
it is just like I mean, I understand why they're talking about like their next console, because they are trying to like maybe compete with the next other consoles coming out, but I don't know. Like it's just they're basically in a rock and a hard place now, because it's just you either launch like next year, like it's rumored, with the new system and sort of just throw the Switch away, I guess, or you keep iterating on the Switch either until the next console generation, or you just do another mid-generation console launch in like 2 or 3 years. Like it's sort of like, I don't know. It's kind of a tricky situation.
Yeah, I'm sure they have models like for this kind of stuff all the time. Depending on like how well the numbers are, when market's gonna be start getting saturated, and profits are gonna start coming down, so they already have something on the works at the time to start catching up.
Sure.
But like you said, like right now the Switch is selling really well. So
Yeah.
yeah, monetarily speaking, there's no reason for them to even look at us at a refresh of the Switch.
yeah, yeah. They're doing so well with it as is. Hopefully they just like focus on the services aspect to it.
It sold 62 million consoles.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same.
People like playing games all on the couch and shit, or in their bed, or they just choose where they want to go play. They like that choice.
And you can get porn games in the Switch, apparently, or so I'm told.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard. Some hentai games, apparently.
Interesting.
Very progressive of them.
How nice of them.
I just want to see Level be like, and it's just like expanded with, because I did buy it for the part headset. I tried it out with Smash, didn't get a fight started on it. I don't know why it's supposed to.
Yeah, for the love of God, make their internet service good.
I don't like to play Breath of the Wild in VR and just play it with full range, but the problem is that it goes to a very low resolution. So one thing I do hope to see if they do have a pro version of the Switch is to actually play that in a more full resolution.
Huh.
That's just
I
one
mean,
idea.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like even the higher end headsets have trouble with that though. Like in terms of the resolution thing, like Skyrim has been ported to every VR headset, and it's like, I mean, it's an old game for sure, but like it's it even for like a game as old as it is, it still looks like really bad. Like VR. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're always getting that scene of like, oh, I see, you've woken up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and when it comes to like VR, just like the fact that the system has to it has to render two
Yeah.
images at the same time is just such a huge note current technology. Like you said, Skyrim still looks like shit, even on VR. But it's because you can only run it at up to a certain specs,
Yeah.
or else you end up getting like your image quality is gonna have to be brought down a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's for an older game. Like even the newer games, like none of them look as good as they would look if you just put it on a TV. Like
Oh, yeah,
none
for
of them. Like not one game looks better in VR.
Yeah, from experience, I can tell you that Resident Evil 7, oof, it looks so much better on the regular screen than when you played it.
Yeah.
You're definitely playing VR for the experience rather than prettiness of the graphics.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to VR, at this point, most of the developers might just want to, they may just be concentrating on giving you a stylized kind of graphics rather than,
A realistic one, yeah. Like highly realistic or something.
yeah, I think
They're trying to go for that stylized, cartoonish,
yes.
or cell shaded even.
Yeah, especially because a lot of the tricks, a lot of the light and shadow tricks that you use for in a 2D setting, it just doesn't really work.
Okay, yeah.
It's funny, like while playing Resident Evil 7, I noticed a lot of the never notice this while you're playing on a TV, of course, but a lot of the a lot of the textures that are put in the background, they clearly look like they're cardboard cutouts, rather than being an actual 3D.
Mm-hmm. That's what actually Diablo uses that trick a lot. They do that where like because it's the third person view, like is it an angle that they could put the details onto textures. They do they still even now do that trick. And it still works. I mean it just it less taxing on the computing, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just I think that 3D rendering definitely takes a whole different gag, a whole bunch of bag of tricks to be able to actually.
Yeah.
Because they just the 2D tricks just don't really translate very well. There's a lot of things of like, especially playing Skyrim, for example. That's also another one of those examples where they use a lot of perspective trickery to make things look bigger than they actually are. So when you're playing it in VR, things just look so small and quaint. Like you're walking around what's that called, Main Street Disney.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so we are an hour, almost 2 hours in.
Oh, look at that.
All right, so thanks for listening onto our ramblings. Yeah.
So tell us, what are your gaming, unpopular opinions?
Yeah. Does anybody have unpopular opinions? And do you agree or disagree with us? Go ahead and yell at us in the comments. We'd like to.
But you love McAtee.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. All right.
Until next time, thank you so much.
Bye, y'all.